Hi everyone, in this video we will be finding the surface area and volume of a sphere. Make sure that you have the class notes and that you're filling in the notes as we go through them in the video, as I will walk around and check it when I come back. So first, finding the surface area of a sphere. The key formula that we need here is surface area of a sphere is 4 pi r squared, where r is the radius of the ball, or of the sphere. Okay, so what's the surface area of the sphere in this picture if 10 meters is that whole diameter? So if 10 is the diameter, then the radius is 5. So we can calculate the surface area by plugging it into 4 pi r squared. So plugging it in, times 5 squared. 5 squared is 25 times 4 is 100, so the answer is 100 pi. And that represents the surface area, so the units on that would be square meters. For the second part, what's the surface area of a sphere with diameter of 14 inches? So if the diameter is 14, then you have to calculate the radius, which is half of that. So half of 14 is 7. Plugging that into the formula, surface area is 4 pi r squared, so it's 4 pi times 7 squared. So doing that calculation, you will get 615.8, and that is in square inches because it is surface area. In this problem, Earth's equator is about 24,902 miles long. What's the approximate surface area of the Earth? So if that's the equator, so if we draw a picture of this, okay, so we have a sphere, then the equator is that whole distance around the ball, 24,902. So that's really like a circumference. And just like a circle, circumference equals 2 pi r. So the circumference here is 24,902, so plugging that in, and that's equal to 2 pi r. So we want to solve for r. So if we divide by 2 first, then we'll get 12,451. Then if you divide by 3.14 for pi, you'll get that your radius is equal to 3,965.3. We still have to calculate the surface area, so surface area is 4 pi r squared. So plugging that radius in for r, you'll have 4 pi times 3,965.3 squared. And doing that calculation, I got 197.6 million square miles. So miles squared. And that number is so large because it's the whole surface area of the entire Earth. Similarly, what's the surface area of a melon with a circumference of 18 inches? So circumference is 2 pi r. Here the circumference is 18. That's equal. So 18 is equal to 2 pi times r, but we need to find r. So dividing by 2, 9 is equal to pi r. Dividing by 3.14 for pi, we'll get that our radius is 9 divided by 3.14, so that's 2.9. So now that we have our radius, we can use surface area is 4 pi r squared. So plugging 2.9 in there, 4 pi times 2.9 squared. So doing that calculation, I get 105.7, and that is square inches for my surface area of the melon. Our second formula that we have is the actual amount of space in a sphere, or the actual volume of a sphere. So that formula is 4/3 pi r to the third. So for volume, we have our 3's. 4 divided by 3, pi r to the third. Okay, so for this problem, the radius is 6. So calculating the volume of the sphere, you just plug in 6, and you'll have 4/3 pi 6 to the third. So doing that calculation, you could type that directly into the calculator. 4 divided by 3 times pi times 6 raised to the third power, and I got 904.8, and that will be now in cubic meters because it is volume, so meters to the third. In this problem, what's the volume of, if a sphere has a diameter of 60 inches, well, if the diameter is 60, then the radius is half of that, so that's 30. So that's the number we're plugging into our formula right here. So plugging that in, you'll have 4/3 pi times 30 to the third. So when we do that calculation, 4/3 pi times 30 to the third, we will get 113,097.3. And that's in cubic inches. What's the volume of the sphere at the right if the radius is 12 millimeters? So plugging that in, 4/3 pi times 12 to the third, and we'll get 7,238.2 cubic millimeters. That's cubic millimeters. So these couple problems are a little more challenging because we're given the volume. The volume of the sphere is 5,000 cubic meters. What is the surface area of the same sphere to the nearest square meter? Okay, so if our formula is 4/3 pi r to the third, well then we can plug 5,000 in for V for the volume, and you'll get 5,000 equals 4/3 pi r to the third. So in this equation, our goal is to find the surface area, which is 4 pi r squared. But in order to get that, we need to know the radius. So if we take this equation and we want to solve for r, then we will have the radius. Once we have the radius, then we can plug it in and calculate the surface area. Okay, so solving this equation, 5,000 equals 4/3 pi r to the third. So to undo the fraction 4/3, I could either divide by 4/3, or I'm just going to change it as a decimal because it's easy to make the mistake. So 4 divided by 3 is 1.33 pi r to the third. Then I'm just going to multiply 1.33 times pi, and that is 4.2. So it's really 4.2 r to the third equals 5,000. So now when I divide by 4.2, I will get r to the third equals 5,000 divided by 4.2. So that's 1,190.5. So now, solving for r, I'm just going to rewrite this as r to the third equals 1,190.5. Okay, so now we need to take the cube root of both sides of the equation. But another way to do it is to raise both sides to the 1/3 power. So to undo the third, I'm going to raise both sides to the 1/3. Raise to the 1/3. So doing so, I will get r equals 1190.5 raised to the 1/3 power. And when I type in that into the calculator, raised to the parentheses 1 divided by 3 power, I get 10.6 for my radius. Once I have my radius, then the problem becomes easy because now I can just take that and plug that in for r. So now I will have that the surface area equals 4 pi times 10.6 squared. So typing that into the calculator, 4 pi 10.6 squared, I get 1,411, and it will actually round to 1,412.0, and that's in square meters. So that's my surface area. Doing one more problem that's like that. The volume of the sphere is 4,200 cubic feet. What's its surface area? Okay, so I need to work backwards to find the radius. Once I have the radius, I can calculate the surface area. So volume equals 4/3 pi r cubed. Okay, so the volume of the sphere here is 4,200. Then I'm just going to multiply 4/3 times 3.14 and get 4.2 r to the third. So that just simplifies things. So now dividing by 4.2, I will get that r to the third equals 4,200 divided by 4.2, and that is 1,000. So now to undo raised to the third, I'm going to raise both sides to the 1/3. So raised to the 1/3, raised to the 1/3. So then I will get r equals 1,000 raised to the 1/3. So r equals 10. Okay, so now I can fill that into my surface area formula. So surface area is 4 pi r squared. So if I plug 10 into that, 4 pi times 10 squared. 10 squared is 100. 100 times 4 is 400. So I have 400 pi, which is equal to 1,256.6. And that is in square feet for my final answer. Okay,